Good morning, and welcome back to the Morning Endurance Call. I'm Keith Erwood, and this is a free daily 15-minute or less leadership ritual for business owners, executives, and preparedness professionals who want to build stronger businesses, think more clearly under pressure, and lead with more clarity in uncertain times. Today's topic is this: the endurance mindset. How to lead through uncertainty. Because uncertainty is one of the defining conditions of leadership. Leaders rarely get the luxury of perfect clarity. They rarely get all the information they want. They rarely get ideal timing. Rarely do they get conditions that feel stable before important decisions have to be made. And that is especially true in business today. Markets shift, risks evolve, technology changes, vendors fail, systems break, teams change, unexpected events happen. Disruption and pressure shows up without asking permission. That is why uncertainty is not an exception in leadership. It is part of the environment. And because of that, one of the most important things a leader can build is not just a plan, a process, or a response capability. It is a mindset. More specifically, an endurance mindset. That is the point of today's conversation. Because the endurance mindset is what helps leaders remain useful when the path is not fully clear. It helps them think without freezing, act without panicking, adjust without losing direction, and continue leading when the situation is uncomfortable, incomplete, and evolving. It's one of the reasons I'll often say endurance is not just what a business builds. It is also how a leader thinks when certainty is unavailable. That is the distinction. Because some leaders are effective only when conditions are relatively clear. The numbers make sense, the plan is on track, the information is complete, and the environment feels manageable. But leadership becomes more visible when that is no longer true. When uncertainty rises, a different quality is required. Not reckless confidence, not passive optimism, not denial or panic, but disciplined steadiness. That is the endurance mindset. Let's make this a little more practical. What is the endurance mindset? At its core, it is the ability to stay grounded, clear, and forward-moving even when certainty is limited. It is the mindset that says, we may not know everything yet, but we can still think clearly. We may not control every variable, but we can still lead responsibly. And we may not have the full picture, but we can still identify what matters most. And we may not be in ideal conditions, but we do not have to become directionless. That is the mindset. And it matters because uncertainty does strange things to people. It can create hesitation. It can trigger overreaction. It can narrow perspective. And it can make leaders chase certainty that they do not yet have. It can amplify fear, cause avoidance, and it can tempt people to either move too fast or wait too long. And that is normal. But the endurance mindset helps a leader resist those distortions. It helps them stay useful. Now, what does that mindset actually include? First, it includes clarity over certainty. This is one of the biggest shifts leaders need to make. A lot of people wait for certainty before they feel comfortable leading decisively. But in many real-world business situations, certainty comes late, sometimes too late. So enduring leaders do not ask, how do I get perfect certainty right now? Instead, they ask, what is clear enough right now to make the next good decision? That is a much more useful question. Because leadership under uncertainty is often about finding enough clarity to move responsibly, not waiting for the perfect answers to appear. Second, the endurance mindset includes discipline over emotion. This does not mean leaders become cold or detached. It means they do not allow fear, frustration, urgency, ego, or pressure to dictate the quality of their thinking. They feel pressure, of course they do, but they work to keep their thinking disciplined inside it. They'll ask, what matters most? What is the actual issue? And what assumptions are being made now? What decision is needed now? And what can wait? What will create more stability here? That is disciplined leadership. Third, the endurance mindset includes progress over paralysis. Uncertainty can freeze people. They want more information, more confirmation, more guarantees, and more time. And while some caution is wise, too much waiting can become its own risk. Enduring leaders understand that in uncertain conditions, small, disciplined movement is often better than thoughtful stagnation. Not reckless movement, but responsible progress. They keep the business moving where it can move. They keep decisions moving where decisions must move. They keep the organization thinking instead of simply reacting. And that matters a great deal. Fourth, endurance mindset includes adaptability without loss of principle. This is important. Uncertainty often requires adjustment. Plans may need to shift, timelines may need to shift, response options may also need to shift, priorities may need to be re-evaluated. Enduring leaders can adapt, but they do not become directionless. They adapt while staying anchored to what matters most. Protecting people, protecting critical capabilities, protecting value, making sound decisions, and preserving the business's ability to move forward. That is a very different posture than simply improvising emotionally. Fifth, the endurance mindset includes realism without defeatism. This is a big one. Leaders need to be able to look at difficult realities honestly. Something may be broken, a risk may be serious, a recovery may take longer than hoped, and a disruption may create more consequences than expected. The endurance mindset does not deny those things, but it also does not surrender to them psychologically. It says, yes, this is real, and yes, this is serious, and yes, we can still lead through it. This is an incredibly important leadership quality. Now, why does this matter so much in business preparedness? Because uncertainty is built into every major area we have discussed. Risk work involves uncertainty. Business impact analysis involves uncertainty. Recovery strategies involve uncertainty. And IT disaster recovery involves uncertainty. Crisis leadership involves uncertainty. And communications under pressure involve uncertainty. Decision making always involves some degree of uncertainty. So leaders who cannot function well amid uncertainty often weaken the organization exactly when leadership is needed most. That is why this mindset matters. And this is why the endurance mindset belongs at the center of this conversation. Let's make this even more practical. What does the endurance mindset sound like in real leadership language? It sounds like this. We do not have the full picture yet, but we know what matters first. We are going to separate facts from assumptions. We may need to adjust, but we are not going to lose clarity. We do not need to panic just because conditions are changing. We will make the next best decision we can with what we know now. We are not waiting for the perfect certainty to act responsibly. And we're not going to lead with we're going to lead with steadiness, not noise. That kind of language matters because it shapes the emotional and operational posture of the organization. Leaders teach people how to experience uncertainty by how they lead through it. That is a very important truth. Now, let me say this. The endurance mindset is not something leaders either have or do not have. It can be strengthened. It gets stronger through disciplined reflection, scenario thinking, pressure-tested leadership conversations, and tabletop exercises and training, after-action learning, greater self-awareness, clearer priorities, and repeated practice leading through imperfect conditions. In other words, leaders do not build the endurance mindset by waiting for a crisis to reveal it. They build it beforehand. That is one of the core ideas of this entire series. This mindset also helps leaders avoid some of the most common traps of uncertainty. Traps like mistaking urgency for clarity, mistaking motion for progress, mistaking optimism for readiness, and mistaking silence for control. Mistaking lack of full information for a reason to stop leading. The endurance mindset protects against those traps. It helps leaders stay centered enough to think, communicate, and decide. And this connects directly to endurance. Because endurance in business is the ability to continue operating, make sound decisions, and recover intelligently, as well as keep moving forward under pressure over time. The endurance mindset is the leadership posture that supports that capability. It is how leaders keep from becoming overwhelmed by uncertainty. It is how they preserve direction when the environment becomes unstable. And it is how they help business remain functional and forward moving even when the path is imperfect. That is why I believe endurance is bigger than preparedness alone. It is also a way of thinking. It is a way of leading. It is the refusal to become mentally scattered just because the environment is uncertain. It is the discipline to stay useful. That is powerful. And that is one of the deepest lessons I would want people to take from this series. Now here is a very practical leadership question. When uncertainty rises in your business, what happens to your leadership thinking? Does it become clearer and more disciplined, or more reactive and fragmented? That's a powerful question. Here's some additional questions you can also ask. Do I wait too long for certainty? Do I become overly urgent? And do I narrow too fast? And do I communicate clearly under uncertainty? Do I help others stay grounded? Am I teaching my team steadiness, or am I amplifying instability? What would it look like to lead this situation with more endurance? Those are strong questions because they move the conversation from tactics alone to leadership posture. And posture matters. So here's today's leadership takeaway. The endurance mindset is the ability to lead with clarity, discipline, adaptability, and forward movement even when certainty is limited. It helps leaders stay useful under pressure and helps businesses remain steady when the environment is unclear. That is the distinction. Here's today's question for you. If uncertainty increased sharply in your business tomorrow, would your mindset strengthen your leadership or make it harder for you to lead well? That is an important question because the answer often reveals the next layer of leadership development that matters most. So thank you for joining me today on the Morning Endurance Call. And thank you for being a part of this first 30 episode journey. If this is the kind of thinking has been useful to you, join the free endurance community at members.erwoodgroup.com. That's where I'm sharing additional resources, tools, live streaming, and ongoing conversations for business owners, executives, and practitioners who want to build stronger businesses through preparedness, leadership, and endurance. The link is also below in the description. As I continue from here, that is exactly what we're going to keep doing. Build stronger thinking, stronger leadership, and stronger businesses that can endure. Until then, think clearly, prepare deliberately, lead with endurance. Thanks for joining. Bye now.